Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Addition and Subtraction of Fractions, Lesson 3. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to convert between top-heavy fraction or improper fractions and mixed numbers and vice versa. So, they're doing the other way around. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to add and subtract unit fractions with the same denominator. This is the beginning of the building block of understanding what it really means to add fractions when they have the same denominator, how you can break fractions down into their component parts. So it's really important that you pay close attention to this lesson. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video to those you think can benefit, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to pause the video and answer the retrieval practice questions in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. For this one, you were asked to circle or to identify the fractions that are unit fractions. Now, you may not know this, you may get this wrong, but something you need to know, which is what we'll be dealing with in this lesson, is that unit fractions are fractions that have 1 in their numerator. So they could have any number in their denominator, but 1 in their numerator. So the other one has to be 1/8. Next, we were asked, what fraction does the diagram represent? The fraction that is represented is 5/7. So 5 out of the 7 parts are shaded. Next, you were asked this one. Of course, you know a whole. This is what we did in our previous lesson, learning how to represent mixed numbers as block diagrams or bar models. You can see that the whole is shaded and 2/3. And to convert it to an improper fraction, you can simply do what we learned. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, 5/3. Okay? All right, let's do our new learning. If we're asked to represent this question in a bar model, what do you think it would look like? Well, you know that from our earlier lessons, we know that bar models, the bars, whatever they represent, we can add them. So if we represent 1/10 first, and we represent another 1/10, this actually gives us 2/10. What about this one? How many unit fractions can we use to represent 5/9? I think you may be thinking right now, oh, the denominator has to remain 9, but we need 5 unit fractions. So we need 5 of them that has the numerator to be 1, but the denominator to be 9. And of course, that's what we'll get. Okay? Now, looking at these, do you think we can use these to represent exactly the same unit fractions that we just worked on, or would this be something different? Of course, it would, because if you think about it, we have 5/9, which we already know, but if we subtract 2 more unit fractions, which are represented by -1/9 and minus another 1/9, we'll be left with 3/9. Interesting, isn't it? We can also represent unit fractions using number lines. So here, if we want to represent 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, we can see that we are on 1/8 at the moment, but we need to add 4 more 1/8. So it means we're going to hop 4 times, and that will take us to 5/8. And that's it on the diagram. It's now time for you to pause the video and practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer questions 1 and 2 in 4 minutes. 3 minutes should be enough, but you can take your time, work at your own pace. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 1 and 2, here are the answers. So question 1, you were asked to circle the unit fractions. You now know what unit fractions are. The numerator has to be 1 and the denominator can be any number. And then write 3 more unit fractions. You can write anything, provided you have 1 in the numerator. Next, you're asked to describe in your own words what is meant by a unit fraction. It is a fraction where the numerator is equal to 1. Next, you're asked to use the bar model to help you with the calculations. So here we have unit fractions being represented, and the calculation should be really straightforward. Pause the video and answer questions 3 and 4 in 5 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 3 and 4, here are the answers. So for question 3, you're asked to use the number lines to help you with the calculations. So using the number lines, you can simply be on 1/3. So you can see that there are 3 intervals. So each here is represented by 1/3. So if we start at 1/3 and we add another 1/3, that would leave us at 2/3 because we're increasing by 1/3 every time. We can use the same approach here. So you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 intervals between 0 and 1. So here is 1, 6, 2, 6. So if we add 2 more 6 to 1, 6, this is 1, 6, will be at 3, 6, which is the same thing as a half. You can see that it is a half from 0 to 1, that is half. Next, we have 4/12, which will be 1/3. So 1/12, 2/12, 3/12, 4/12, which will be 1/3. Now, something you may notice is by doing this exercise, we are actually simplifying. So let me show you. So by doing this exercise, we are actually simplifying the fraction. So here we have 3, 6. Now, if you look at 3 and you look at 6, 3 is a factor common to both of them. So we can use 3 to divide the numerator, which will give us 1, and we can use 3 to divide the denominator, which will give us 2. If you look at this one, we have 4/12. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that 4 is a common factor. So we can use 4 to divide the numerator, which will give us 1, and we can use 4 to divide the denominator, which will give us 3. So it's a very important concept for you to understand. Here is the answer to question 4. For question 4, you were asked to write the fractions as sums of unit fractions. So you just know that you need to break the fractions down or decompose them into their component unit fractions. So that will be 1/3 plus 1/3, 1/7 plus 1/7, and that will be 3 unit fractions. That will be 3 unit fractions, but having the denominator as 14, so on and so forth. Okay, let's do some new learning for the second part of our lesson. If we want to represent 2/11ths, how do we represent it as unit fractions? Of course, you would say 1/11th plus 1/11th. But my question is, are there other unit fractions that we can use to represent the same thing? Of course, yes. So here you can see that we have 3 unit fractions, but if we subtract 1 unit fraction, we'll get the same answer like we have above. We can also represent it in other ways. So see how many you can make. Well, I'm sure you've paused the video and you've tried to see how many unit fractions you can make that are also equal to 2/11ths. Now here they are. And we can have many more. So here you can see that we have 4 unit fractions that are all added together, and we can subtract 2 unit fractions from them to be left with 2. Now, you can see that they've been grouped. Those unit fractions that we're adding have been grouped, and the unit fractions that we're subtracting are written separately. But they could also be mixed. We could write 111 minus 111 plus 111 minus 111. We'll get the same result. And here is another one. Okay. All right. How many unit fractions does it take to shade in one whole? What do you think? Well, let's explore this. If we have this bar model where we represented as unit fractions, it is a half plus a half, which is two halves. We can see that we've used two unit fractions, which matches with the two parts that we have split the shape into to represent a whole. What about this one? See whether you can guess the number of unit fractions that we would use to represent the whole. Well, you can see that there are three parts, so we're going to need 3 unit fractions to represent 3/3. And of course, if you simplify 3/3, you will get a whole. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. The one that we had above, 2 divided by 2 is 1. What about this one? How many unit fractions? Well, we can see that we can use 4 unit fractions, each being a quarter, to represent a whole. So 4 quarters will give you a whole. 4 divided by 4 is 1. It's now time for you to pause the video and have some practice. So pause the video and answer question 5 in 1 minute. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 5, here is the answer. So here, let's call him Dexter, says half cannot be written as the sum of unit fractions because it is already a unit fraction. Is Dexter correct? No. We can write half as a quarter plus a quarter. Now, you may be thinking, how is that possible? Well, if I write half as a quarter and a quarter, we're going to have 2 quarters. Now, if we simplify this, we will have a half. Why? 2 is a number that is common to the numerator and to the denominator. If we divide 2 by 2, we'll get 1. And if we divide 4 by 2, we'll get 2. Pause the video and answer question 6 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 6, here are the answers. Here you're asked to fill in the missing denominators and show the calculations on the number lines. Of course, you can see that we have 2 quarters already as our answer, so we must have quarter at the denominator because they are unit fractions. The denominator is 4. Here we must have 7. Subtracting them will give us 0. So it's like going that way and subtracting going that way. This one is like starting from a quarter and then adding another quarter. This one must be a fifth each. And then here must be a fifth because we have 4 1/5 minus 1/5, which will give us 3/5. And this is how you can represent them on the number lines. And then this one is 5/5, which is 5 1/5, 5 unit fractions added together. Pause the video and answer question 7 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the question, here are the answers. So you could have this result. So you were asked to complete the calculations by adding or subtracting unit fractions. And here are the results. So I'm sure by now you have really mastered the concept of unit fractions. Pause the video and answer question 8 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 8, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you have 4 quarters You were asked to complete the addition and the sentences to show how you can use unit fractions to make a whole. And you can see here that you just needed to add 3 more unit fractions. So you need to find a quarter 4 times to make a whole. And then here you can see how the sentences are completed. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So you have learned and mastered the concept of unit fractions and how we use it to understand fractions and the building blocks of understanding fractions, fraction addition, and fraction subtraction when they have the same denominator. We're going to apply this concept some more when we explore the concept of addition and subtraction, even in our next lesson. Well done for sticking around and for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.